Hey, Derek shared Matt Brighton in our basement, and this is just something that kind of popped up. We're going to talk about what we think about the Tony Bennett situation for a couple seconds, and then Matt and I are going to go up to the marker board and show a couple things and just kind of go over some stuff as Matt's getting ready for his seventh season as the head coach or sixth.
This will be my fourth.
Fourth. I guess I was a little off. You know. But Matt's the head coach at Delta. He's done a fantastic job. He had a tough situation. Program was in shambles when he took it over. The coach who was there previously just had screwed everything up, which was me. But no, Matt's done a great job. He's already at not even 30 years old yet. Got the District 7 Division 3 Coach of the Year award. And the thing about that that's so impressive is there's a lot of teams in District 7 or a lot of Division 3 teams, which makes it hard. There's only what, 8 Division 2 teams in District 7.
There's not many, I know that.
So it's Division 1, Division 3, and Division 4 heavy. But Tony Bennett, my take on Tony Bennett leaving is nothing revolutionary. It all boils down to NIL and transfer portal and the state of college basketball right now. I think it's a mercenary environment. I think guys like Tony Bennett, Matt Painter, I think there's other guys. There's a lot of other guys I think who fall in that category. Those are the two that come to my mind right now. David Riley at Washington State's another guy who comes to mind is someone who's a program guy, somebody who likes to build, get kids in and build and see those kids through. But going back to Coach Bennett, I really admire the fact that he stepped away knowing that he couldn't give his all in a tough situation. And I think that's part of the Tony, the Dick Bennett, the Jack Bennett, that family's just got such strong values and strong beliefs in what's right and what is wrong in their estimation. And I think most people who were raised in the Midwest would agree with their summation of what is right and what's wrong. So euphoria for me is a huge Tony Bennett fan, as Dick Bennett was my biggest mentor when I coached, would be that Tony Bennett pulls a Mike Dunlap and gets a Division 3 or Division 2 or even better, in my opinion, an NAIA job where he can coach and be a program coach. For those people who don't know, Mike Dunlap, when he retired from the Bucks, took the head coaching job at Colorado Mesa University, which is Division 2. And man, he's so excited about this. We had him on our coaches show, and he's so excited about having program guys, having student athletes, having kids who want to get a degree and know that they're not going to be in the show. They're not going to be professional athletes. So he's in Valhalla right now, and I think a lot of basketball purists would be in Valhalla if Tony Bennett got a position somewhere where he could run a program the way he sees fit. And I think maybe a lot of people would agree with me that there would be a lot of us out there who would love to see that, to go back to the old landscape of college athletics where you see a kid maybe his freshman year, if he's really good, and get into some playing time his sophomore year. Then his junior and senior year, they develop, they get stronger, and have great careers, except for those freakish athletes, like Calbert Cheney or Glenn Robinson, the Fab Five. But those guys were so good that they could play right away. But I really enjoyed seeing the development of kids going into a university and playing 4 years or 5 years if they got redshirted and watching their growth and development. I still think that's we've kind of gone away from that. What is your perspective?
Well, me selfishly, as a young coach, I like to watch Virginia. I'm not a Virginia fan, but I do like to watch them because I like to see what he runs offensively and defensively. I think he's a great coach. And unfortunately, I think this isn't going to stop. He's going to be one of, a couple, maybe many, of very good coaches who, want to develop these kids, recruit these kids out of high school thinking, okay, well, this isn't the best player, but he is the best player for our program. He's the type of kid that we want in our program. And like we're talking a little bit before this, you have to be a coach and a salesman now. And you can tell a kid, something at the beginning of the year or in the transfer portal when you're talking to them. Things change throughout the season. You may say one thing about, this playing time, or you're going to do this and you're going to do this for us. And then things change throughout the season. And if that doesn't happen, those kids are gone.
Right.
And and that's really tough to see. I go back and forth. I'm not really huge on this NIL stuff. I don't know a ton about it. I kind of keep my head down when that stuff, comes around. But I think, it's really tough on coaches. It's you tell a kid something, they come to your program, they do it, hopefully what you want them to do for a year, and then next thing you know, they're gone. You already think about next year's plans. I think about it as a high school coach. I want to build these kids up, but what if they transfer? Things like that, and it's tough. But like we said, it's a lot of that salesman part. What can you do for those kids? And you can say there's positives in it for players, but it's very tough for coaches like Coach Bennett to build that program that he wants. And it's very disappointing to see somebody, end up retiring this close to the season. So it had a pretty solid impact.
Craig Gard's another guy who comes to mind. I would hate to see college basketball lose Craig Gard. And Michael Lewis, going back to something that you said is when you mentioned development and seeing kids come through the pipeline, Michael Lewis, the head coach at Ball State, who played Coach Knight at IU, really said it the best. We will at Ball State, he will take a risk and roll the dice and get a kid that nobody else really recruited. So Ball State being a mid-major in the MAC, if there is a such thing as mid-major, I'm really not a big fan of that term, but in Muncie, Indiana, so Michael Lewis says we get these kids who weren't excessively recruited and develop them. And I can't think of the kid's name right off the top of my head, but they rolled the dice and got a 6'7" kid and developed him. And by the time of his middle sophomore season, he was playing really good basketball, and he gets taken away by somebody else who could offer him a substantial amount of NIL. And that's got to be terrible for Michael Lewis, who takes a diamond in the rough, per se, and develops a kid like that and then not be able to coach him. So my heart leads for coaches like that. I also don't know, really looking at it holistically, I don't know how you would go out and recruit now if you were at a university that was tabbed, quote unquote, mid-major. You're going to go after these kids and you develop them too well and they're gone.
Right. And it's really tough, to be honest. If you think about it, you can't really knock a kid for wanting to go do better, go play at a different school. But like I said before, it's very tough. Selfishly, as a coach, it's got to be very tough on those coaches. But it is tough also to knock those kids who do want to go play at those other programs.
Yeah, and Coach Bennett has addressed this, and Michael Lewis did said it eloquently. The kids have an opportunity to go somewhere and make real money, right. Stupid money. Right. Matt and I are both school teachers, and we're not into what we do for the money, obviously. Right. So these guys have the opportunity, if they manage their money properly, they might not ever have to have a real job. They might live the life of O'Reilly, for the next 70 years of their life, or 60 years, like I should say, which who wouldn't want that? I know I'd take it. Right now, hell, I'd take it.
And then you go into those kids who, leave for the draft too early. They go into the draft, they don't pan out like they should. They don't make as much money as what they were expecting to. So now this whole NIL thing, kind of keeps them in college. Kind of hopefully they work towards their degree, or they get developed just by different coaches each time. So it kind of keeps kids in college a little bit longer, which is kind of nice too. But it's back and forth situation.
I wouldn't do well in that scenario, just because it's like coaching on quicksand. To negotiate, because basically that's what it is, negotiate with everybody on my roster about everything, because they could just get up and leave.
Right.
You look at the situation with the UNLV quarterback. Yep. Things like that. I don't like that. I think it's terrible for athletics. I think it's a terrible example for kids
and it goes back to, something doesn't go my way. Okay, I'm going to leave and I'm going to go do something different. Yep. And that's really where I struggle with this whole thing, is if I don't get my way, I'm just going to go somewhere else. And I get it. There's other situations where yeah, maybe this kid should have transferred or, things like that. But it's a lot of it comes off to me as, okay, I'm not getting my way. I'm going to go somewhere else. And that's tough for me.
That's a great point. Very well said. I think that as professionals, we push the line and push the line and push the line. Now that we push the line's almost to the wall now.
Right.
I mean, what's next? Are we going to say, okay, basically we're going to turn this whole franchise into glorified G League or AAU or whatever it could be, and you guys who want to go have the college experience, and I guess it would be called the old school way, then you got NAIA Division II, Division III. Personally, for me, I think NAIA would be a better route to go because then the NCAA is completely cut out from all the decision making processes, and I do firmly believe that the NAIA still pushes a program that is college based first and are way more concerned about that kid getting a degree than the possibility of a kid getting, making multi-million dollars in college, which you're talking about kids who have a really specific skill set that very few Americans can do, or people, I should say, and they're going to make more money than, some of a dentist per se, mm-hmm. which is insane. But anyway, we're going to move on over to the marker board here. And before we do that, I want to make sure everybody understands that November 4th is the last day of our sale, where if you have become a member of a local, state, or national coaches association, we're offering a 50% discount to a premium subscription for our website, which means you have access to everything, absolutely everything. And our website is content packed, and it grows by the week. As soon as Matt and I get off the air, I'm going to go back to editing, and hopefully I'll have Pat Knight's video uploaded today. And I'm also going to include, since Coach Knight, the battery on his iPad ran out during our show before he got to hit the marker board, I'm going to include a tremendous amount of footage from all the things Coach Knight talked about: pairs, triangle, baseline. And Coach Knight had sent me some really good clips, and I'm going to include those into Coach Knight's video, which is going to be really good. Some of these clips, I think, are extremely rare, so we're very fortunate to get our hands on those. But anyway, November 4th is the last day you can get this deal. 50% off, which comes out to $25 for a 1-year premium subscription, $25, and that gives you everything. If you want to take advantage of this, which I certainly hope you do, because after November 4th, it's going to go back up to its regular price, send an email to me at Derek, D-E-R-E-K, Derek, at myrustbeltbasketball.com, and I will send you the discount code. I'll also post the discount code in the moniker and or the comment section once we get this uploaded. So I'll go first, Matt. One of the things I get asked about quite a bit, Princeton, for anybody who doesn't know, several years ago, I wrote this book, Basketball's Princeton Style Offense, a simplified approach for high school coaches. And it's out of print now. I do have it available on our website in our library. But when I wrote that book, there was very few coaches utilizing the Princeton offense. It just wasn't in vogue in high school basketball. And really, you had Air Force, who had Joe Scott, and Cornell, Richmond. You had a handful of colleges who were utilizing Princeton, but it wasn't something, and of course, Bill Carmody at Northwestern, it wasn't something you could find a lot of things on this. So when I started researching this, I was a high school coach in Indiana, and I kept getting jobs where we were just not as athletic, not as big, not as strong as the other schools in our league. So I became fascinated with the Princeton. And right around that time, of course, Princeton upset UCLA on, I think it was Gabe Llewellyn who made the backdoor cut in the right corner and upset UCLA in the NCAA tournament. So I had all these videotapes, VHS tapes, stacks and stacks and stacks of it. And they gave me a great kind of a holistic map. So I had, just hundreds of notes. I had legal pad after legal pad drawn up on all these things, and I had question marks all over them. I couldn't figure out what linked everything together in this offense because talking to the Princeton guys, they are so loyal. They were so loyal to Coach Carrill, they wouldn't give you a thing. Now they would send you a couple DVDs or VHS tapes, but they wouldn't give you a thing. They wouldn't tell you. You know, Coach Carrill's famous line was "frickin' figure it out." That was his famous line. So I got really lucky at one year in the early 2000s. Jerry O'Brien from Gibson Southern High School in Fort Branch, Indiana, which is way down in South Indiana, almost into Kentucky, spoke at the IBCA clinic, and his teams were so famous for execution. But again, this is back when the internet was relatively young, at least for us earthlings or mortals, where we didn't have a lot of access to what was going on in other parts of the state. So finding out that Coach Bryan utilizes Princeton offense and his presentation was brilliant. You know, those old school guys, those old dinosaurs, when they go on a clinic tour, but they get asked to speak, they're not going to hold back. Those guys know what an honor it is to be asked to speak. So they're going to give you everything. So the little pamphlet that he handed out answered 2 or 3 questions for us right off the bat. But we still had questions. So we were at this time we were adding Princeton actions into our high 4-out 1-in motion offense. And summer came around and I called Coach O'Brien and he let me spend a weekend with him and was just so gracious and helped us to put all the pieces to the puzzle. And I thought, okay, I'm about ready to be able to teach this. So I ran into somebody at a party in St. Louis during the Final Four, and they said, a guy who knows an awful lot about Princeton is Rick Majerus. Well, that's great. I just obviously don't know Rick Majerus. I'm an earthling. I'm not one of the basketball Zeuses. So I call the basketball office, and Coach Majerus's secretary answers and says, "Oh my gosh, it's perfect timing because Coach is just getting ready to take all the VHS tapes out of inventory." And he goes, she said he throws a lot of those away. He's like, great. Gave the address. So I get a trash bag, literally a trash bag, duct taped with the postage stuff on it from Utah men's basketball office, full of Air Force VHS tapes. And that helped a lot too. And I still have all those tapes. But anyway, before I went off on the rampage about the Princeton stuff and how hard that stuff used to be to get, of course, now, you can go anywhere and get it. It's all over the internet. And I think a lot of people have done a really good job of making this easier for kids. We ended up using it for 5 years, and I had a lot of fun coaching that. We went right back to blocker mover once I moved to Maumee, which is a story for a different day. But I get asked a lot in regards to this book. For example, last year at the IBCA clinic, two young coaches came. The restroom was out of paper towel. So we're all getting ready to go out back into the gym, and these two kids said, "Hey, are you Derek Sheridan? We saw your we have your book." Like, oh man, that's great. Whatever. And they said, "So what if you could take anything out of Princeton? What would you add to your blocker mover stuff now?" And I said, I always wanted to put what was called forward dribble, and we did to a certain degree. I don't think we ever did it as Delta, but with the over under way, I think people call that point now.
Yep.
We did some of that stuff, which is just common screening. So one's hit 3 in the entry, the standard low post entry for Princeton, and he's cut through. So however you got the ball to 3 here. So the key to this is with the way bought this, the 2-man stood with his behind or his spine facing the opposite sideline. So he rotated over here in unison with one cutting through. And people who utilize Princeton know that you're going to get pressured hard. Most people now get up here on the top hip of the wing player and force them baseline to utilize hammer or baseline. We just called it fist up.
Yep.
But if you're getting pressured square, his first look is always down. His second look is at the top. And people are going to say, yeah, well, you're never going to be able to make that pass. Exactly. Because especially before pack line became in vogue, X2 is going to be on the line of the ball, up the line, denying. And this was what coach called forward dribble. And so 3 is going to dribble the ball. And as he dribbles and gets about 2 feet outside of the high elbow extended, which we call the pro spot, 2's gone. I mean, he is backdooring like mad. 5 is simply stepping out and under, out and away. So this pass is taught, he's going to make a bounce pass right off of X2's behind with his left hand off the dribble. And you do get that sometimes. Sometimes you get that. I know when Joe Scott was the head coach at Air Force, I had never seen a team who ran Princeton get more forward dribble, what we called first option backdoors. Never had I seen anybody. So 2 then is going to exit out. And as soon as 2 got his head under the rim, 4 is stepping in. I mean, right there, right now, he's stepping in, and 1 is right on his tail. And 3 has picked his dribble up now. And 4's got to make a read. If X4 is below him, he's cutting up. And then we get right back into the symmetry or the flow of low post Princeton offense. But most teams are going to deny everything. So when he lifts and X4 jumps out in his passing lane, that's the back door that you typically get off a forward dribble. And so now you've got your 4. If 4 didn't get it, 3 swings it. And now you've got 4 in a low post scenario. I really like that action here. And then there's your classic drift. Yep. There's your classic drift where you get a lot of 3-point shots. You get a slip there. I also like the fact when 1 gets it and looks at 4, who's come over, especially if X4 fronts. And man, if we slam the ball to 2 and he crab walks his man under the rim, you can get it right there to him. I didn't mean to take that long. That's what I would incorporate, find a way to put into our blocker mover. But that was forward dribble. It's something we drilled every day when we utilized Princeton offense, every day. And it works really good against teams who pressure. Then another really good question I get asked about the Princeton stuff is, well, okay, so you utilize the forward dribble against a team who's not pressuring. Okay, so you 3 dribbles it over. And here comes 2. Where's X4 going to be? Well-coached team, X4 is going to be somewhere in this area here. You know, everybody's got a different version of work, but it's going to be somewhere in this area. There's your screen down, and you circle right behind. There is no shape up. Yep. There is absolutely no shape up. You do not want your man to shape up. It is a true wheel cut. And then 2 hedges out, bang. And again, 1, the timing of this is crucial. 1 has to be right on 4's tail, and you get that slip by 2. And another thing about this stuff that we had in as an end of quarter special that we picked up from a Princeton tape when Coach Krill was there, and they were playing. I think they were playing Penn, and Coach Krill had this wrinkle in, and it was a forward dribble scenario. And 2 went, they didn't get him. 4 came in, and this time X4 was playing the low side. So when 3 hit 4, 5 screened it, now kind of like the old Utah Jazz, John Stockton angles, where he came in like Jerry Sloan used to teach it. Because, you know, X3, any well-coached team is going to jump to the ball right here. And it's like we used to say, make well-coached teams pay for playing fundamental defense. So 3 jumps to that gap right there, and here comes 5, and they hit 3 who with Mitch Henderson, and 4 lobbed it up there to him, and we stole that and put that in as a end of quarter counter. And then of course someone would say, okay, great, so this is a set play for an end of quarter counter. Well, what happens if they pressure? Well, then backdoor. It's when you talk Princeton offense, it's no different than we talk blocker mover. Matt's a great blocker mover coach. It is all about, I'm going to tell you what to do, but it's your job to read it. I can't be out there on the court to you. You have to be able to read scenarios. These set plays that we utilized, all of these things are all predicated on what we used to say, how well did we teach these guys how to read? And then every night at 7:25, we're about to find out.
Right. Right. Well, I think it's something too that could really help, having middle school coaches do this. I remember we ran a lot of Princeton when I was in high school, and Jerry Kiefer, my coach, would yell at me, scream at us. We had a couple sophomores on the team. We never went back door. Go back door, go back door. And that's something, it's easy to see now. Well, gosh, all I had to do was go back door. And it opens up so many different things. But I think it does help having middle school coaches really stress that, get those kids to start to read that too. But going off that low, we had 2, 1, 4, 3, 5. So we would have the ball here. We go to 2. 2 has the ball now. And we would wait. Our one man would wait until we start to dribble. Then we go back door. And then we keep dribbling. And then this guy comes up and goes back door. So then X3 was always sitting here in the middle waiting for those back doors. So we had our 3-man able to come up and shoot top of key 3 after top of key 3 after top of key 3. So that's something that, and it's not something you see every day with the low post. So it is kind of nice. We have our 2 fill here, and then our 2 filled here, and then our 4 filled here. So as long as we, those are 1, 2's got the ball here. So then our 3, knowing because X3 was sitting in here waiting for those back doors, we had top of key 3 after top of key 3 there. Another thing too out of that low, and what's nice too is you can kind of make it your own. You can kind of do your own little adjustments to it. But if we have 2 here with the ball, one man's already cut. We have 3, 4, and 5. I always like to clear that 1 to this side because now we have that direct dump off there. And I always like to get the ball down to our post players, whether whether he's good or not, because I like to get the ball down there. I think we have a better chance of scoring on the blocks than, we have chucking a bad shot or a contested shot up there. I try to get the ball down as low or to the low post as often as I can. I like our kids being able to, use the backboard and make a move down there. So that occupies them here. And then when we dribble, then we go back door here. Our 5 comes back out. We fill there. I'm going to kind of go over here now. But we have this. 2, our 5 is following. We got 4 in the corner, who I like to use as a guard anyway. But then our 3 here. So that clears. X3 should be here helping with that back door, which then leaves him open. So then we can go here, and then you got your little, I like to call it a kickback, and then we play off that. So not only now we have this drive, we have 5 going down the lane. We got a shooter over here, and then our 3 and our 1 can screen for each other, communicate that too on that back side. If they come over and help here, we have that easy kick there. But I like to put a nice player here, who can kind of attack here. Now, obviously, when we run this in high school a lot, we get shots off that. That's something too, especially when you're going over low, chin, whatever. I think these kickback screens or drift screens, right? Those are big to go over in your daily shooting, things like that too. So, but yeah, I mean, there's so many different options. You can go out a point off this. It's it's really nice to have those different options. It's nice because you get a chance to get the ball down low. You get a chance to get an open shot. Sometimes three can come off this, get a wide open shot. You can get it off the kickback screen here. You get a drive to the basket. You can get another wide open shot. There's just a ton of different options here. If something doesn't work, okay, well then keep going. There's something else that's going to open up for you. And then you can flow into pretty much whatever you want after that. 5 out, 4 out, 1 in, different things like that too, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's so versatile. Like now that I'm out of coaching, I really, when I think about the stuff, we ran, I think 5 outs got a lot of advantages. I really like, I really like what we did our last few years together with the spread blocker mover, because I think you can go 5 out if you have 5 guards. As a matter of fact, I know you could, and I'd like to experiment that sometime. But going back to the Princeton, I found a video I made when I first got the job, Washington Senior, and that was the first team I taught Princeton to. And so I had some alumni come in the summer, and they videotaped it. And the problem is the audio on it's terrible because the ceiling fans were going and everything. I'm gonna try to find a way to dub it and maybe make a video and post it on our website, which, by the way, you've got till November 4th to get our deal for 50% off if you join the state, local, or national coaches association. That's $25 for a full year premium subscription. So take advantage of that. But anyway, one of the things that I picked up, again, when you watch all these Princeton videos, I still have all of these VHS tapes. And sometimes I get bored, and if I have the camera, we got VHSs all over the place down here. You always see something new. You learn something every time you watch a Pete Carril game. It's like when I first started the Rustbelt stuff, I had made a little thing about, I'd found a VHS tape of like the 1994 Maui Invitational with Utah, which was Rick Majerus versus Coach Knight at IU. So you got two of the best coaches the game, and I'm like taking notes like crazy because you just don't see that much anymore.
Right.
You got so much. There was so much to absorb, so much to learn. The game was so much more fluent. But anyway, in this game, Coach Carril kept throwing it down low, and 3 floated to the corner, 2 had rotated over, 4, 1. And 5 dribbled the ball right at X2. And he went backdoor here. That was the first time they did that. They got the back door. And then the thing that was different about this, because 3 floated to the corner. The second time they did it, 2 went this way, and here comes 4. And he went. And they got 4 the second time. So we called that post dribble. And you've got to we had Eric Wilson at that period of time, who was one of the most versatile 5 men I ever had, who was also a special high school football player. But that was something I think those are things that make this offense fun to coach.
And what's really nice too is when the ball goes down there, X2, X1, whoever's here, their eyes go right to the ball.
Yep.
So that's what makes it nice too. Kind of going off that, if we have the ball here, 2 and 4, whatever, the ball's down here, you can set this screen here. We get open for a shot there, and then that's a good slip. Or you can send him through too. I mean, kind of like what we said, it's whatever you want it to be. But it is nice because when the ball goes down there, you bet everybody is looking down there to help.
Absolutely. And you just hit the nail on the head. And I'm right in the middle of working on a blocker mover video I filmed at my alma mater, Eastern Greentown High School, over this past summer. And one of the intro lines is one of my closest friends, Eric Thompson, who's the head coach at Huntington North High School in Northeast Indiana. When he and I were trying like mad to learn everything we could about Jack Edison's blocker mover system, Coach Edison, of course, is the legendary coach at Plymouth High School in Northern Indiana. And in my estimation, the best high school coach who's ever lived. but we're trying to dissect we've got tons, we both of us still have tons of VHS tapes from Coach Edison that we pirated somehow. It's like when we were trying to learn our zone. Gosh, we had all these Coach Malby, Matt and I ran a 2-3 that I think was pretty darn good.
Not bad, yeah.
But anyway, going back to the blocker mover, Eric said, when Eric got the North Manchester job, which is in Manchester, Indiana, which is in the beautiful part of Indiana with all these lakes, and it's very affluent area. And Eric's talking to one of the guys who had coached for Coach Edison at Plymouth. And one of the things Manchester is known for is all the beautiful flower gardens, almost all these old homes that have been restored several times in uptown Manchester. This whole area just has beautiful flower gardens everywhere. And that's kind of their thing besides high school basketball. And Eric's talking to this gentleman who had coached for Coach Edison. And at this time, Eric's wife, Holly, is out in the front yard working on their flower garden. And the coach, the old Plymouth assistant, looked at Eric and said, your blocker mover is going to be a lot like your flower garden. It's going to be how you want it to look. It's going to be how you want it to, all the aspects. It's all about what you want. You're trying so hard to make it what was ours. The way we did it was the way we saw it, the way it made sense to us. You're looking at it and it doesn't resonate with you. It's not flowing. It's not just something you see and pick up right away. So make it yours. Make it make sense to you. Don't use our terminology. Use terminology that makes sense to you. And that flower garden statement for both of us was like, man, how true is that? And to this day, I mean, even all the what time we spent together when I was coaching with you, I wanted our stuff to look so much like Jack Edison's because it was so, it flowed, it had symmetry. And if anybody wants to see what we're talking about, go to YouTube and just search Plymouth High School versus Evansville Bosse, BOSSE state championship. I think that was 2009. Don't quote me on that, but the whole game's on YouTube for free, and you'll get a firsthand look at what that blocker mover looked like. And it was the most free-flowing, beautiful blocker mover I had ever seen. Show us what kind of stuff you did this year with your offense, Matt.
Well, we are actually doing a lot of Princeton stuff this year. I've been actually reading that book too, just so I I had a lot of prior knowledge to the Princeton since we ran a little bit of it in high school, but just trying to kind of overload in a sense just to make sure I understood every part that I would like to run. And kind of like what we said, make it your own. As a coach too, I hear that all the time. I'm like, well, yeah, I understand that, but where do I start? So it does help. We do some things kind of in the summer. That's our time, preseason, stuff like that too. Okay, well, do we want to set this screen here and go over? Does that work all the time? Does it work sometimes? Why didn't this guy in a clinic talk about it? So it does really kind of help to work on it with your players, kind of figure out what they like and what they do well too. But I like to run, just some different sets here that kind of give options. It's not just one thing. Kind of like what I said. I like to try to get the ball in the blocks, or I like to have something coming up for a shooter. Just some quick little easy sets here that give you some options. We always try to get something on the block. So we kind of move our two down, who normally is our best shooter. We set this screen here. It doesn't even have to be a screen. It's just kind of clearing him to get out of the way. We got 3, 2 in the corner, 3 here, and then 5 shifts and sets the screen for 4. We try to get the ball here. So 4's got the ball here. 5 then. There, 1, 3, and 2, 5. Then after we set that screen, now a lot of teams will switch that, and that's fine. That's what we kind of hope for, because then we have him on our butts already, and we slide down, and we're looking for this pass here. That's our first look. I can call that for a guard. I can put a guard there. My point guard the last 3 years was one of our best post-up players. We run this set for him. Anybody that we want to get the ball down there, anytime we have, we watch some film and we say, hey, this kid can't guard. That's who we want to put in this spot here, or even in this spot, because we know that they're going to switch on to them. So anyway, that's option one. We want to get the ball down to there, trying to post up. If not, I like to run a lot of set two actions, right? Where we have this double screen here. And our two, now he can read this, he can go back door, he can curl the first screen, the easy way, and that all our kids did. And this is something that I guess I would teach last, is to have him come up, because that's all they ever want to do. But we come up here and we have a shot for a three there. We get the ball down there as an option. And it also, hopefully, there's no weak side help there too, because our guys are in actions on the weak side. Then what another problem or a struggle that we did have too is, what do these two do next? What's the next thing to do here? So we have our 4 with the ball still, 5's posted, 2 came up. Whether he gets the ball or not, I like to have these guys figure out what they're doing next. It's communication between 1 and 3. Let's say the ball does go here, they end up closing out. Okay, what are these two doing now? It can be here, boom, come up, back door. He can curl it. I like stretching the floor. That's something that I really push for my players to do, is really stretch the floor. We can have 3, 1, set this flare there. Anything to kind of open it up, and then we slip here. So that's just kind of a simple, easy set there that we like to run. And then it can kind of go into whatever you like there. Another one that is similar to that, we would get, and a lot of it is just a 1-4 alignment. To be honest, it's not super important for it. But again, we clear 2 here. We have our 5 pop. So then it clears this whole side. 5, 2, 3. Now our 1 man, we teach to yell, to scream. Come on, whoever our 4 is, come on. We try to get this down screen. Our 4 man comes up, shows hands, and he busts back door. Now, if this is something that you're running really early in the season, teams haven't seen it, you get that back door. I mean, we would get this kid in practice daily on this set, and he was on our team. But as long as it's really big to get this guy screaming, making sure that he can come up, and it helps, if he's one of your better athletes, where he can really come up and bust his butt back door. This pass is something, and our kids get pumped. When they get that, it's usually an and one, or we get to the free throw line. We love getting that. But if we don't, X1 and X4 here are confused on who to get. We got a guy down there, 1 pops back up, gets the ball. Then we can dribble over. We have our post up. And this one's a little bit nicer too, because we have a post player screening. Sometimes it's a little bit bigger body there. It will kind of help. But anyway, we get 1, we got 4 posting, we got 5, 3, and 2 again for our best shooter to fill up. Now we sometimes get him go back door, and that's a nice easy pass there too, which was open. But we get shots there, we get post ups, and then there's different things that you can get out of it. He can fill up, but that's a whole other thing too. These are just quick little easy sets, and like I said before, 2's got it here. 1, 4, 3, 5. Now here, then we're looking to get either a tight curl, a back door that we can get here. And then whether you want to go 4 out, 1 in, he's already in, or you can bump him out, and then you're in your 5 out offense there too. Those are just some kind of quick, easy sets. We would run these anytime we had, close games, playing some good teams. We really did our best job to get our guys in positions to put them in foul trouble. We wanted to get to the free throw line. We wanted our chances to get to the block there and put the ball in. So those are just kind of some things that we work on frequently. But yeah, we've been kind of changing our offense up, and those things though, those are some main points that we really like to run, and we get a lot of decent looks.
Mm-hmm. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. I like that. Kind of like the old five out with Dan Peters and Bob Huggins' dad utilized a lot of good stuff. What you said about getting the ball on the blocks is essential. I think you have to get the ball on the blocks. We didn't necessarily utilize this a whole lot when you and I were together, but when I was at Maumee, what you said spurred this memory is going after a certain player and getting them in foul trouble. We always thought that was crucial no matter what school I was at. But putting kids in a situation to do that, I think, is imperative for your program. Connor Grates is a player who I had at Maumee who was exceptional at getting a point guard on his back and scoring inside. And we had one of the biggest upsets in my coaching career, getting a Division I point guard out of the game for almost the entire game. He never got a full routine. I don't think he ever got a swing where he played 3 minutes in a row because we got him. We hit his third foul in the first half. And so, Hall of Fame coach, they did a great job of managing him. But the bottom line is, we got him on the bench more than that team was accustomed to. And Connor did a great job of putting him in a position of either fouling him or giving him an easy or contested post move. But one of the ways we would do that is we would put our player, let's say it was our one. So we'd run a dribble handoff or whatever to get this in motion to get our point guard here. And then so I would put our three with the ball up here. And once the ball got to three, then we would swing players through. And basically this is just false motion. But once the ball we'd want to take the ball away from the player who we had designated. So we would go here away from him, and he's got his tailbone to the sideline and his dominant foot cocked back. His hands are shot ready. I mean, he's ready to get the ball rocketed to him and take a three-point shot or drive a baseline at any time. As soon as the ball was in the air to 4, 5, after they just screened, and this just happens with symmetry, just flows, screens across, and there's your look right there. We want to throw it to him right here at the rim. And we would get that, sure, but he's busting it off of this cut. And sure enough, his defensive player is coming over on this side to deny that pass, which is what we want. Our 5 comes right back. 3 stretches the floor to exit out to keep X3 from digging in here on this pass. So we hit 5, and now we've got a perfect high-low with 5 and our one man because he has him sealed. So his left hand is right there extended at that left side of the basket. And one of the other biggest upsets we had with any of the teams I coached at the varsity level, that was something we utilized a lot to get a point guard in foul trouble. It doesn't matter. We could put their best shooter in a position. Whoever guard, we just wanted them to get to an elbow, and then we wanted to go away from them. And then another thing you can do out of that, and we didn't do any of this at Delta, but we did a heck of a lot of it at Maumee. Well, I had Tyler Martin, Jordan Lane, Anthony Barnum, Sean Flanagan, Dominic King, those kids who were all just so skilled. We just did a lot of 1-4 low. But with that being said, if this kid, after he screened and came back, and you've got your one man here, he's dropping. There's nothing to say he can't catch it square and drive the thing. And now you're basically playing 2-on-2 here. And we did practice the heck out of that. And I had a lot of players who got really good at that. Again, this doesn't have to be a 5-man. You can put whoever you want in these positions, as long as the people on the perimeter can shoot it or drive it, but they got to be able to do something with it so their men can't sag off. But that's something I think is vital to have in your repertoire where you're getting great players the ball, or skilled players, not great players, skilled players the ball in positions to attack off the dribble, especially for coaches like Matt and I who are motion coaches, and even Princeton is motion. But in motion coaches, you've got to have opportunities and stress the fact that these kids have to take the ball to the basket. They've got to utilize curl cutting. And I know the mid-range game isn't in vogue now. I'm not an advocate of that. I understand no one cares what I think. But I think taking away the curl cut and not advocating for a mid-range game puts your players in a position where they're not getting to the foul line enough.
Right. And that's what kind of, we've been talking about some Princeton stuff. So, you have Point, our four or whoever, like what you said. Boom. We have our three is already kind of lifted and our one. So our four passes, we get the ball to our five, and instead of going over or away and point, you can just go point down the lane or point through, whatever you want to call it, where you're going here, and then you have a post up there. You kind of lift three a little bit. So then you have your options here. And then if you have X1 slide down, well, then you have a skip pass for a wide open shot there. But again, this is just a different way to run out of point out of your Princeton, too, that you have this here. So you pass it and then you go right down the lane. We have a nice post up there. If he's jamming you here, well, then that's perfect because we just walk him down, you leg whip him, and then we have this dump down there and we're ready to go to work. If that doesn't happen, if we can't get the ball there, then you either have five has it here. You have four. You can go pass this here. And then it's either you have a back screen for a high-low, or you can have five set a down screen for a high-low. But either way, you're getting this ball here. So then we had a five that's down there. Our four is here with three has the ball. Great on the marker board. But then again, we have boom here for our high-low there. Just another way to kind of get the ball down there, pick on those defenders that you want to get to. And like I said before, it can be whoever you want, just as long as they're in the right positions. But we really try to get the ball down there and try to figure out, who can we go after. Normally, we like to find out who's pretty good at offense on the other team, but doesn't like to play defense. And that's who we want to go right after. Team's best players, we try to do that too. So those are just some kind of other ways too that you can make that work.
Yeah, that's so big. Going after players. Coach Bennett, all the Bennett, Jack, Tony, and Dick were huge and instrumental in me learning about that. Coach Knight. Going back to Coach Knight, we had Pat Knight on our show last week, and he talked about a lot of the IU terminology, which you and I need to get to Marion in Indianapolis and watch a couple games. Worst case scenario, we stream them and watch them down here, but I can't wait to see him utilize all of these motion offenses that Coach Knight employed at IU and Texas Tech. But triangle, Pat and I talked for a long time before we started the broadcast. Mike McBride is on Coach Knight's staff, and Mike was the longtime coach at Holy Cross College in South Bend, Indiana. And Mike's the best teacher of motion offense I know personally, and I've stolen so many things from Mike over the years. But one of the things Mike and I used to talk about a lot, and it was fascinating listening to Pat Knight talk about it, was just Coach Knight's triangle. And Coach would determine who was in the triangle based upon a lot of principles that Matt just said. You have to have a kid in the triangle who can shoot it. That's number one. But going back to what Matt was saying, utilizing and this isn't Tex Winter's triangle. This is Coach Knight, or Coach Bennett called it green when he was at University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. But in this triangle, you've got 3-on-3. Out here, you've got 2-on-2. But you can put a kid in the triangle and make him guard for sure. You can put a kid in the triangle and who might have 2 or 3 fouls and make them guard. Also, if you're scouting someone and you notice that they've got a kid who leaks or cherry picks or goal sucks, whatever your terminology is, put him in the triangle, and he ain't going to be leaking out unless if he does, he's giving a layup. But this 3-on-3 action can be whatever you want it to be. And when I had Tyler Martin and those kids at Maumee, we ran our triangle like this. We ran it nice and wide, and we would also run it. And I think the most success at Maumee we had utilizing triangle, I don't think we did this at Delta, was the way Tony Bennett utilizes it. It did utilize it at UVA with an inverted triangle. The same principles, but one is going to get the thing to foul line extended, and then 3 has to follow the diagonal rule because you want this area up here open. And 5, if he's locked his man up and man, he's sealing and he has an angle to post, then 2 can slide around and back screen X4. And so you get a 3-man motion going inside of this triangle. You do not want it to be a pattern. And I know a lot of teams utilize this, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it other than I don't know if you can beat the best teams on your schedule utilizing the old, what we called 3-man flex when I was a kid. You know, and there was your 3-man flex, and you repeated this. My issues with 3-man flex, my first year as a college coach, or my first year as a high school coach, because we did some of this as a delay in college, was these guys have to work their tails off to get open. And if they're being guarded by superior athletes, it is hard for them when the ball goes here to get it reversed. And the traditional 3-man flex. Now, one of the few continuities I like a lot is a 3-man flex with a lot more mobility to it. And I like this a lot for a team who's got a 5-man who you never want leaving the blocks. And you can start it any way you want. Let's say it starts on this side and the ball's dribbled to the wing, and you've got your classic screen across. You always want the ball entered away from your 5-man. That way it's a little on big screen. Here comes 5. Here comes your down screen. And as soon as 5 cut, 2 fills. And that opens this area up. Of course, we're looking here first. But it's 3 cuts. Or as soon as there's 2 men in a row here, he comes out and hits. And there's your continuity. And I like that a lot. We utilize that at the end of quarters. We had something we called 5-pass, and we did use this as a 5-pass where after 5 or 6, whatever amount of passes we called, we would flow directly right into a set at the end of a quarter. And having that in your repertoire offensively is great for special situations because you might not have to call a timeout, and that gives you an extra timeout in your back pocket. And plus, it's something a lot of coaches don't use at the high school level. And if you can have a 5 or 7 or 6 pass, whatever, into a set play or a quick hitter, that's deadly in my estimation. But I also like pairs. And Pat's thing right now at Marion, and then he's with the 5-man motion, which is great. I like pairs a lot. We did run this at Delta. I ran it completely differently than Coach Knight did. Coach Knight ran everything out of a 2-guard front. And I know Bo Ryan used a lot of pairs out of a 2-guard front too. I wasn't able to teach it well enough to get continuity, and not continuity because it was motion symmetry, where the floor was balanced a lot. But with the The way we utilize pairs, which you'd have primarily a 5-out alignment. You wanted a big on the wing on one side, and you wanted a big low on the other side. You know, once the ball, and you can enter the ball however you want, run a set, quick hitter, entry, whatever. But once the ball's entered, you know, this could have been a stream, however you want to get the ball to the wing. But once the ball's entered, now you've got one comes up, ball side, pro spot, which is high elbow extended. 5 is the worst shooter out of these two, so you're stretching the court horizontally, and these two are going to play 2-on-2. So 2 is constantly looking down, opposite, same. So if he puts it on the deck here, contingent on how he's being guarded. If he's being guarded top hip, then you've got your fist up or hammer, baseline drift, whatever you want to call it. If he's being guarded on a low hip, he's going to punch the thing towards the elbow, and that opens one up. And then you get right back into your flow. This is great against a team, but switch. And if they come out and pressure switch or high hedge switch, that is great. Another Coach Knight or Coach Bennett motion alignment that's great versus switching is just simply what Coach Knight called baseline. And you can start your 2-man wherever you wish. But these 2 are playing 2-on-2, and these 3 are playing 3-on-3. So if that ball swung, you know, here comes your 2 running basically figure 8 patterns, but man, on that switch, boom, step right back to the ball. You know, you got your high-low there. But I know when we were together, if someone switched against us, which as blocker mover coaches, when someone, once we saw someone switch, we went right into that initially. So I think pairs and baseline are both great options when you are an extreme underdog versus teams who pressure switch.
And what's nice too about this is, again, if they do switch, you have a guard on your post player. It's a nice, easy way to get the ball down low too. So if we saw something where they switched a lot and we wanted to go to this, we knew, okay, maybe our shooter's not going to be open all the time, but our players down low better be calling for the ball, posting up, getting to their spots where they can catch the ball and attack.
Yeah, the big things with this that I found, I don't ever remember a year as a head coach where we didn't utilize, we call it runner. And the big thing with runner is, especially now that we're going back to the way it was when the way defenses were played in the 80s, where the goal is to keep a team on one side of the floor. And so when a team's guarding, you know, they're not going to let this guard to guard pass, and they're going to try to keep you on one side of the floor. It's imperative to have some action where, one, doing this, we always wanted to move our 2-man to true north or to the nail hole area, but get these guys over here where this guy can go.
That's what I was going to say too. It's important to have these 2 guards up here. They need to be aggressive. It's not just okay, well, we need to get the ball to our shooter running, you know, corner to corner or dumping it down here. These 2 guys can't stand up here, you know, and just pass the ball back and forth or stand with the ball over their head. They have to be able to, you know, drive, create some penetration, whether it's to the middle or to their side. But if especially to the middle, then that pulls this guy, and then we can attack off that too. But it is very important, and it's very important just to say that you got to get those guys to be aggressive, and they have to be able to handle that ball under that type of pressure too. So that's something that we make sure we cover too when we go over this.
Yeah, you're exactly right. My humble estimation, the teams defensively who take a great pride in their defense and want to keep the ball on one side of the floor make running motion offense extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. So you've got to have some things where you're going to score quick. And most motion coaches don't necessarily want to score right now, and get it and create a game where the tempo of the game favors the other team. Now, Matt and I have always come from a perspective where we were tremendous underdogs. We never had a team that, the Board of Education approached us before the season and said, "Hey, you guys are going to be really good this year." So we were always underdogs. So my point in saying that is you want to be able to control tempo. And people misconstrue that and say stuff like, well, you're going to make 100 passes. Right. Well, we might make 100 passes, which is not true. We might make 10 or 12 passes or 15 or 20, but it's in the flow of an offense. No one's putting the ball on their hip. So against that one-sided top hip defense where they funnel everything down and want to keep the ball on one side of the floor, you're going to have to make them pay quick. You're going to have to do some things where you clear out and let your point guard go. Of course, everybody knows the key to that scenario is once you get this action and you've cleared everybody out, you've got to have somebody here on the weak side block, because if he slides over, then you want him to get in here before the defense can cover down, take that away. And another thing too that I think is vital with this is as one takes the ball towards the lane or toward the rim, he has to be pushing into the defender. He can't allow space. He's got to get that guy on his hip and make him ride him. And that's another great way to pick up a couple fouls on a player against teams who utilize that one-sided defensive philosophy. I've always been a huge proponent of the 1-4 low. Some of the best years we had at Maumee primarily was 1-4 low. We could get into our blocker mover from this, but we had so much pressure put on our ball handlers that we wanted to get this kid into the defense, into that player, and get in here. One, we wanted to get on the foul line. And two, if he could get down here by the volleyball line, now what we call this tester. Who is going to help from there? Is it going to be X4, X5? And that's an easy dump down layup. Is it going to be one of the perimeter players? Because as soon as one crosses the volleyball line on the high school court, this player sliding up, even with his outside, which would be his left eye here. And there's your kick. And now he's going to go. I mean, go. And then one comes out. And it's kind of like a flattened out four corners. But if you've got three players who can put the ball on the floor and are aggressive, and you've got two players here, and these kids don't have to be big. They just have to be able to get to the foul line, and hopefully they can get a few baskets and ones. But
well, and this is something important just to go over in practice every day. Where you have your 4, your 2 over on that side, 4, 2, and your 1. I mean, even start with X1 behind, kind of like a offensive advantage drill. You have X4, you have X2, just getting used to him driving down the lane, him sliding over, and then you can let X2 decide, okay, are you going to stay on 2 or are you going to stay on 4? And that then helps this point guard decide in a game, okay, well, am I going to be able to dump it down, or am I going to hit this window pass to our shooter there too? So, it's not just, okay, well, let's draw this up, go ahead and do it. It's, these are things that need to be repped in practice. And this is a good drill. These offensive advantage drills, are something that I've really noticed a lot this summer, doing my own research too. And this is something that kind of goes into what we do almost every day.
Right. And going directly with what you're saying too, this is also a great defensive drill. We call this cover downs. Because we never wanted him to leave. That was the few years I did coach man-to-man, our help always came from one of the wing players, and we just trapped it. That's what we did with 1-4 low. We trapped the ball. But anyway, with this action, this is a great defensive drill because when 4 leaves, X2's got to cover down right now. I mean, right now, and we wanted to bust the hip here. So when he covers down, he's going after his outside hip and pushing him, showing hands to the official, pushing him underneath the backboard. And then the offensive, because Matt and I both agreed when we worked together, there shouldn't be ever a scenario where we say, okay, this is strictly a defensive drill. Now with the zone, it was a little bit different. But when we're talking man to man, every drill is a drill to make both offense and defense better. It's like I hated the fact that people would say, do you have any good rebounding drills? Yeah, every drill you use is a rebounding drill. Right. You put your expectation out, and if they're giving up rebounds, then run them. I know that's not in vogue right now, but that's kind of what we did. I mean, it's not kind of, we did it. And I think kids understand that. But that's all about your expectations and how clearly you communicate those to your team. Every drill's a rebounding drill. Every single drill you do. Because if you have to say the word rebounding to get the kids to do it, that's like Pavlov's dog, that Pavlov theory. They're only going to, you don't want to put yourself in that scenario as a coach. Trust me, every drill you do is a rebounding drill. You have an assistant coach who harps on that. And, I strongly recommend anybody takes a line out of our old vernacular, which was to the kids, if we're complaining about this in January, you understand you're going to have a terrible year. This is on you. I can run you all, I can do whatever, but ultimately it comes down to you making a choice whether to do it or not. But this cover down action here is vital for your man-to-man defense. And then offensively, attacking the cover down is huge for your man-to-man and zone offense. When two sees his man has covered down, he has got to find an open hole where one can see him. One is underneath an extraordinary amount of pressure. I mean, he is getting ranked, tackled. So two has got to attack that cover down by going to an area on the floor where there's some spacing where one can see him. And that goes back to the defense can never be right. That way, when the defense does win a battle, whether it's in a game or practice, primarily here in practice, where they do win a battle, that's grounds for celebration for the defense, because that is very difficult to do against a player who knows how to read that cover down. There's too many high school players, when their man covers down, they stand. They stand and they do nothing, and nothing good comes from nothing. Inaction in that situation or scenario is the worst action you can have. So I think what Matt said is brilliant. If you're a man-to-man coach, the more scenarios you can put your players in defensively where they have to help and recover and then get the heck back. Because it's not the help that gets you beat in man-to-man, it's the recovery in airtime. And then offensively, teaching those players how to relate to the cover down or to the help. And I think those are great separators, what we call in Rustbelt basketball terminology, great separators. Great separator means my kids know how to do this, and I don't believe the other team does. That's going to give us a gigantic advantage, especially when we're playing the best. In the league Matt's in, the Northwest Ohio Athletic League, is a basketball purist's dream. The kids are big and physical, well coached. The coaching in that league is outstanding. And the amount of quality basketball that's played in that league from a purist perspective is outstanding. And it is a very physical league, very physical. Absolutely. Those big kids who are, Patrick Henry boys, all, the Delta boys, all those kids from small villages, Liberty Center, right? Those kids play the game the right way. But I'll tell you what, if you're a kid in the NWAL who doesn't like contact, you are in the wrong league.
Right. Yep.
This is good stuff. Matt, you got anything else you want to show them?
I don't think so.
We have a sale right now. If you have joined the Coaches Association, whether it's your local, state, or national, take advantage of this deal we're offering. If you're a serious coach who's always trying to grow your content knowledge, learn new things, if that's the kind of coach you are, you're going to like Rustbelt basketball coaches stuff. The stuff that we put out, the content. The second goal we have is produce tremendous, effective, valid, useful content and make it at an affordable price. Right now in America, there's a lot of things people can disagree on, and that's running rampant. But one of the few things I think everyone can agree on is things are very expensive right now in America. We're selling our products, which are conducive to being affordable for your personal budget, your household budget, and also your school's athletic or your camp your basketball camp budgets, what we had here in Ohio, or your athletic department's budget, whatever you have, but it's not going to break your budget. Our stuff is very affordable. Right now, you can get everything on our website. You can have a premium subscription, which links to everything, our forums, library, videos, podcasts, virtual clinics, on the court clinics, any of those things for $25 for a 1-year premium subscription. Take advantage of that. Derek, Derek, at My Rustbelt Basketball. Shoot an email to me, and I'll send you the discount code via a QR code, or just send you the banner itself. But take advantage of that. You might not heard of Rustbelt Basketball, but if you're a serious coach who is constantly growing, wanting to grow your content knowledge, you're going to find out about us sooner than later. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Matt. This was great.